guess you could say it would not be fair to judge him based on that one game, but the one game I did see, he played awful in that game. 3 interceptions against Columbia during his junior year. I feel like overall he's not a bad quarterback. Right now he's very inexperienced at the college level. I don't feel like he's going to be like, he's not going to be making the same throws in high school against the competition that he did there versus now at the college level. He's going to need some experience to work his way in there. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I hope he's been practicing hard this week at Bama because they are not out of the woods this week, because Auburn is capable of winning this game. So they cannot let their guard down at all. And people who want to say if Alabama destroying Auburn, I don't see that happening at all. And I can see Auburn easily winning it as long as Auburn does what they're supposed to do.
The question I'm wondering is, this game ends up somehow being close. Does this justify like an Oklahoma or a Utah winning their conference championship, jumping to that 4 spot?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to depend. The rankings, I think, this year have been kind of very wobbly. I mean, when I saw Ohio State go above LSU, I thought that was kind of wrong, because LSU's been I think they've had just as much of a solid team as Ohio State does. And the way I see it, if Bama does beat Auburn, though, for sure, then it could possibly go to the top 4, but it's going to depend on how Clemson does, how LSU does against. I think LSU takes Texas A&M today or tomorrow. I can't remember. But I think the only way they can get in the top 4 is, it depends on how this week goes for those teams and conference championship games, which will be LSU and Georgia.
Speaking of, you said LSU. I'm thinking a blowout in this LSU versus A&M. I'm thinking LSU by 21 here.
That's what I was thinking too. A&M's not as good as people.
They're terrible.
They are. They are just. I've always viewed them as an overrated team as well.
Same here.
And honestly, and in my opinion, which I know this is kind of off topic, but I believe them and Missouri both should go back to the Big 12 and not be in the SEC.
Well, I will say, at least with A&M, look at the exact reason why the SEC would want them in there in the first place. All it takes is a map.
Right, but Texas schools are mostly in the Big 12, or I think some of those other schools, I think they were all in. I can't remember where some of the other schools were at. I thought they were in like a lower conferences, like not Sun Belt, but Conference USA or something like that. And having a Texas school in the SEC it's just kind of shocking, but at the same time, A&M hasn't been performing the best against other SEC schools as well.
My feeling on it was that when they put A&M in there, they were trying to do 2 things. One, they wanted to have an SEC like pipeline in the state of Texas for recruiting, and they wanted to have that Texas market into the SEC because of how big Texas football is. And then they wanted to bring Missouri in to keep the A&M Missouri Big 12 rivalry brought into the SEC.
Yeah, that's kind of understandable too, but then again, like I said, if those 2 went back to the Big 12, they would have 12 teams.
And you mentioned Florida being your other favorite team, and we're heading to the battle for Florida supremacy, essentially. Florida State and Florida. I know a lot of people are really expecting Florida to just completely cream Florida State in this matchup. I just don't see it, honestly. I'm actually going to take Florida in a very close one. I'm going to say Florida by 3 here.
Oh, man, crazy. I'm going with Gators by 21. Go Gators.
And the I believe this is the Belton Bowl over Oklahoma State. I like the Sooners by 7.
I was going to go by Oklahoma by 14, and Oklahoma State's a decent team, but this is going to be the Sooners game.
Yeah, Oklahoma State, they got that good running back.
Yeah, they do, and but like I said, Oklahoma, they've been that team this decade. They've been a very strong team, and I believe that's all them. All
right, and into the NFL games, we had some pretty solid Turkey Day games last night. Bears 24-20 over the Lions. I caught a little bit of that, but not a significant amount. And I believe that was actually the game that officially eliminated the Lions from the playoffs last night.
Yeah, I watched that game, and that's also my favorite NFL team other than the Jaguars, the Lions. I watched that game, and that ending, I was pretty much shouting at the TV after Thanksgiving dinner while I was watching it, or lunch, I should say, because I had lunch there. I was watching that game in the house over there when I was in McClenny, and I was pretty much shouting at the TV at the end. I was not happy because even with that third string quarterback they had, Blau, I believe was his last name, he was really good. And Chicago Bears aren't like the same team as they were last year. And then they were capable of winning, but unfortunately for me, they always disappoint, man, I guess. Kind of like the Jags.
Bills 26-15 over the Cowboys. I did catch a bit more of this game, and I was very impressed with what I saw from Buffalo. I saw them earlier in the year against the Patriots, and really, this Buffalo team, they're a playoff team. I can see that right now with what I saw with them so far this season. And the Cowboys, man, that seat is getting hotter and hotter by the day. And they're slowly fading themselves out of the NFC East chase. At this point, I would not be surprised if the Eagles eventually catch up and overpass them. In fact, they play them, I believe, week 15. I would not be surprised if Philadelphia beats the Cowboys week 15 to basically take control of the NFC East.
Yeah, I didn't watch that game at all, but I saw some of the highlights, and I guess with the way Cowboys were performing, they were performing so bad that even Jerry Jones left his seat at the game, and I thought it was kind of hilarious in my opinion. But no doubt that Buffalo team is just they've been very shocking too, and the Cowboys have some great players too, but I just don't know the answer for them. They are really costing themselves on getting into the playoffs, and most likely the Eagles are going to win their division this year.
Normally, I would never really go blame the coaches immediately, but from looking at the Cowboys, I really do feel like in the end it is coaching that's holding them back at this point. And I'm sure that's what most people in Dallas are basically begging Jones to fire Garrett. And he's had a good run. He's had a good run there, but it's at this point it's obvious that it's the coaching that's costing them right now.
Yeah, Jason Garrett's probably going to be gone by the end of the year, possibly. And if they don't, then I feel like next season might not be a good one because I think at this point it's time for him to go.
From what I keep seeing, it sounds like he's going to finish out the year, but my feeling is he misses the playoffs. He's going to be they're going to fire him immediately after the season.
Yeah, I can see it happening at this point.
And another this was an NFC South battle, Saints-Falcons. Saints get the rematch win from when they lost to the earlier in the season. They lost to the at the time 1-win Falcons. They've got the 26-18 win over Atlanta last night. I am kind of surprised it was this close. I was really thinking Saints were going to blow them out.
I was watching part of that game yesterday, and these two teams do not like each other, but Atlanta has been looking terrible this year. And the Saints actually won the NFC South yesterday because of that game. They, I saw it on the news or something this morning that they claimed their third straight year of winning the NFC South division, which is no surprise because the Saints are pretty good. But yeah, that Falcons team is just, they've had a very rough year, and kind of feel for them a little bit, especially with Matt Ryan, but I mean, what did you expect the Saints to lose? No. The Saints are capable of going to the Super Bowl this year, in my opinion, for the NFC.
They're going to have to do better than that performance against the Falcons, though.
Yeah, I can see that. The way I see it, it's either going to be them or Seattle most likely winning the NFC this year.
Speaking of another in a big-time NFC team, 49ers, they're going to travel to the East Coast to face the Baltimore Ravens. I believe in the last time I made some of these NFL picks 2 weeks ago, there was a East to West game, and I took the West Coast team. And I'm going to do the vice versa this time. I'm taking the East Coast team. I'm going to take Ravens by 3 over the 49ers.
And the funny thing about this game is both of those teams are both they're capable of both going to the Super Bowl, but I think the 49ers are overrated in a way. And I don't know if you remember from Super Bowl 47, I believe, these two teams faced each other in the Super Bowl, and they called it the Harbaugh Bowl because Jim was coaching San Fran, and his younger brother John was coaching Baltimore, which he still is now. It's possible these two teams could face each other in the Super Bowl, so they may play each other twice this year, depending on how it goes. And Baltimore is a very strong team because everyone's talking about Lamar Jackson. He's probably like the best quarterback in the AFC right now. I think he's probably doing better than Tom Brady, in my opinion. So I got Baltimore by 14, and they'll put San Fran out with their second loss.
I will say, I do remember that game, and when I was watching that game when it was happening, I still cannot believe that with the whole lights going out, and that was enough for the 49ers to fire their way back into the game. Because it looked like Baltimore was going to shred them in that Super Bowl.
Yeah, Baltimore, I mean, after that year, they were kind of I would say. They were so, but they had some talented players. But this year, that Baltimore team is so capable of going to the Super Bowl. And besides, they beat the Patriots, and I feel like they could beat them all over again in the playoffs.
This is a big time rivalry, and I think from what happened 2 weeks ago is going to make it even more intense than before. Pittsburgh versus Cleveland. The whole mess that happened the last game, I feel like in this game, the Steelers, they're going to completely come out. They're going to come out to shred Cleveland. Even though I feel like Cleveland is a better team, I feel like what happened last time Pittsburgh's going to come out with a different level of intensity, a different level of fire. I like Pittsburgh by 24 in this game.
That game's probably going to be kind of ugly in a way because, of how last game went. And usually it's Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Like when those two play each other, there's always something going on. It's probably the biggest heated rivalry in the AFC North. But especially after what happened in the last game with Cleveland, I'm sure things are going to be pretty tense. But I got Pittsburgh winning by 7 over Cleveland.
Technically, you can say Pittsburgh's pretty much a rival with everyone. They got Cincinnati, they got Cleveland, and they got Baltimore. Like Pittsburgh does not like any of those three.
Yeah, and I remember they used to have a rivalry with the Jags back then because those two teams wouldn't get along much either, and they weren't even close to each other. And I remember when the Jags beat them in the playoffs in 2017. Yeah, those teams just did not get along well either. A lot of teams don't like the Steelers, and I would say in general, no matter what division they're in.
Speaking of another former Steeler rivalry, Raiders versus Chiefs. Obviously, we knew what I'm referring to as the Raiders and Steelers used to have a huge rivalry. And Raiders-Chiefs, this is another rivalry in itself. I know Kansas City, they've kind of been up and down this year in a way because I feel like Mahomes being in and out of the lineup with the injuries has kind of hurt them in the long term. I honestly am taking Oakland to pull the upset here. I'm going to take Oakland by 4.
This one I'm going with Kansas City by 14. And Oakland, if you saw last week, they played against the Jets and they got smoked. And I know the Raiders have some decent players, and them and the Jets both are not good teams. But the way, after the last week's performance, I just think the Chiefs will beat them by 14 on this one.
Patriots versus Texans. I really thought before the season the Texans, when they went after, they got Laramie Tunsil in a trade, and they made some pretty good moves, in my opinion, at the beginning of the season. I really thought this was going to be the year they were going to take that next step, and they took probably 2 steps back. They have been up and down all year. They're facing New England, and New England's probably going to shred them. I'm taking New England by 21 here over the Texans.
I was going to go with Patriots by 17. Texans are a good team, but I think Patriots got this game in the bag right here.
And the Monday night game, Minnesota Vikings versus Seattle Seahawks. I like Seahawks at home by 6.
I got Seattle by 14. I think the Vikings have some good players on that team, and they have a good record, but Vikings kind of are, to me, I think are kind of like the 49ers. They're somewhat overrated.
Okay. And that's all of our games for this week. And we see right now, at the time of recording, the Columbus Deerfield Beach game is about to start. So obviously, this podcast will probably get released once that game's already started. And well, we're gonna